Hello and welcome back to the Entertainment Vortex. Today we were at Brennan Theaters watching the new Tomb Raider movie. Now I was excited about this movie because I played through the new Tomb Raider game, the first one that they came out with, and I bought the second one. I'm looking forward to playing through it. And I liked what they did with the character. I liked that they made it more grounded in reality. I liked that it was more gritty and more visceral. I really enjoyed the way they built this character. Now, with that being said, that's exactly what I didn't like about the movie. I don't feel that this was either Lara Croft. I don't think it was anything like the original video game or the original movie, and I don't think it was really connected to the new one either. There were little aspects, you know, like she uses a bow and arrow and little things like that, like she has the climbing hook that is prominent in the game, but nothing about the character and the way her mind seemed to work and the way she was analyzing her surroundings really spoke as if it was a Lara Croft to me.
So back in 2013, Square Enix released a reboot of its popular series, Tomb Raider. This reboot was loved by fans and by critics for its realistic nature, its realistic main character, and staying away from more of the ridiculous kind of fantasy type thing, while still having a little bit of that magic and charm of myth and lore. The story from the film takes a lot of notes from that, using similar characters, similar set pieces. Overall, kind of a similar plot as far as the way that the beats kind of set up. It follows a lot of those things pretty much to the letter as far as the story is concerned from the game. While it does take 20 plus hours of content and kind of mashes it down into 2 hours, it does follow a similar storyline while removing some of the filler, some of the characters that are more central to the way that the game tells the story, make something that's kind of its own unique path through a similar storyline with similar characters.
And that really bothered me. If you're gonna do a movie based off of an existing franchise, even one that's been reiterated, you need to at least show the characters some respect. If they were to make the first Harry Potter movie and completely change what Harry Potter was like, no one would be okay with that, and I'm not sure why it was okay in this one. I felt like Lara Croft was literally stumbling through everything. She wasn't making analytical decisions, she wasn't planning, and while yes, there's a lot of luck involved with her catching cliff faces and stuff like that in the game, she was always well thought through. Like, this was a intelligent, impressive person. And that's why she's able to be put into these harsh situations and make it through. They didn't do it. I mean, right at the beginning of this movie, you see her lose a fight, and then it doesn't really come into play at any other point in the movie. It's just not well established. The character's not well built, and it should be well built because they spent the first half of the movie establishing the character slowly and drawn out. I was ridiculously bored the first half of the movie. It takes certain points you have to know and it spreads them across this really long period of time. And I'm not sure exactly why it was that slow, because it definitely didn't need to be to get across the information they were trying to get across. I don't feel that they used the time to establish any of the characters very well. You know a little bit about the dad, and you know a little bit about Laura, and then you know a little bit about the guy on the boat that you see in the trailer, but that's about it, and that took an hour to get there. It should not have taken an hour to get there. Then, when you do finally get to the action on the island, while the physical action itself is good, like the fights are very visceral, and they are, in my opinion, realistic to a point, I don't feel like I don't care about the character at all. I didn't believe the dynamics between the characters. I didn't believe these instantly created relationships between characters and why they care so much about each other. None of it really made any sense, to the point where when I got towards the end, when some of the emotional things are happening, I didn't even react.
While Nick was disappointed with some of the things as far as the story and the plotline are concerned, I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting this to be very good. Based on every other video game adaptation that I've seen, there aren't a lot that stick out as big, over-the-top films that stand out as far as box office take and as far as critical praise. For the most part, they're all pretty much mediocre to really bad.
I just feel that it was bad character development. I had trouble relating to what was on screen with the characters. And then with them trying to ground it in reality, because if you don't know, the new games are basically the old Tomb Raider grounded in reality. They didn't do that very well either. They have people tracking people in impossible ways. None of it makes any sense. They're gunfights, they're bow and arrow fights. It's like, none of it would work that way. None of it worked. None of the way it was written actually worked, and that's very frustrating to me. So I actually found myself more broken out of the immersion and frustrated with this movie than I did enjoying the movie.
So I felt like this film was pretty okay. It does kind of fall into that mediocre territory. It's not the best film that I've ever seen for sure. There are some issues with some of the dialogue, some of the way that the characters interact that I felt like were not super realistic, but I was able to stay immersed through the majority of the film and able to follow it to the end and enjoy myself for the most part as far as the action is concerned, as far as the set pieces are concerned. I did enjoy some of the ways that it strayed and varied from the game to make it a little bit more digestible for an audience.
Where they left the movie at the end, I hope they learn from this movie and they continue with that story, because that was kind of interesting. I'd like to see where this is going to go, but I hope that they would do it better. I hope that they would take more from the game, because the game, I think, was a better movie than the movie, if that makes sense. Because of the way they paced it and the way they kind of flow with a lot of the cinematic things that happen in the game. I actually feel the game was a better movie than this was actually as a movie.
In keeping with the theme of disagreeing with Nick this week, I enjoyed the portrayal of Lara Croft. I felt like, as far as the game is concerned, it isn't this person who's constantly one step ahead of the enemy. It is someone who does stumble and learn from a lot of emotion-driven mistakes. Eventually, at the end, learns to become better as far as, an exploration is concerned, and as far as taking what they've been taught from other people and using that to their advantage. In this way, I feel that the two characters are very similar. The fight scene from the beginning of the film, while Nick doesn't feel like it bears any fruit towards the end, I feel that it does. There are some scenes towards the end, I won't give away too much. If you want to see this film, go out and see it. I personally think that if you enjoy action films, or if you enjoy films that are more of just kind of like a get out and have fun, more of a popcorn type film, you may enjoy this. There are going to be a lot of people that aren't going to like it. It is something that I feel will be divisive. As far as the way that the characters presented, I feel like it is going to create a similar arc to those games, which if you've played through the first two games and know that there's a third game that's coming. They just announced that this week. There's more for this character to learn, and there's more places to go, and I feel like the things that they're doing differently with the story are going to create something new and interesting that might be the next adventure film series to keep an eye out for.
I can't suggest this movie, and that's sad because, one, as a video game fan, I really want good video game adaptation. And Tomb Raider is that concept that kind of goes right in the middle of video games and real life, where it could make an excellent movie. It could be a serious Indiana Jones. Instead of being, lighthearted, you could do it serious and gritty and dark. And it could be that movie, but I don't know what their thought process was. I don't know what they were going for here, but I don't believe it worked.
Do I feel like the game is a better adaptation of this story? Definitely yes. I loved the game. When I saw that reboot was coming out, I was instantly ready. This is one of the few games that I've actually pre-ordered. I don't think the whole pre-order thing is really worth much, but in this instance, I knew I wanted to have the game based on its similarities to series like Uncharted, and I love that type of game where it has a really cinematic feel, but it also has really engaging and interesting combat. And that game had it in spades. There were a few times during the film where I felt like I was kind of watching a QTE take place, and I was like, where's the square button? I need to push something to make sure that this doesn't go poorly. But I really enjoyed a lot of the film. Like I said, as far as some pacing issues, as far as the dialogue, and as far as some of the characterizations, there were some things that didn't stand up as well as they could have, and the game is a much better adaptation. If you're going to choose one or the other, I would suggest to spend the time and play the game, but if you're interested in this film, I would suggest to check it out for yourself and see what you think. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect. I'm interested to see what they do with this character moving forward, but I would definitely watch it again. Probably wait until it comes out, on Netflix or on some form of, video on demand.
So I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 10. I am super disappointed in this movie. A lot of it comes from the fact that I came in with kind of high expectations because I knew what the game was and I knew how good and ripe that was for a movie adaptation. But every turn, something was disappointing me. I found myself rolling my eyes. I found myself breaking immersion, going, wait, why? How? Why did that happen? Why does this person care so much? Why does this interaction even make sense? None of it worked. None of it clicked together, and that really bothered me. So I'm curious to know, what is your favorite video game adaptation? I know there's not a whole lot that they've done well making a video game into a movie, but there are some good ones out there, and I'm curious to know your favorite. Leave that in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We do a minimum of 4 videos a week, including at least 2 gaming videos. And of course, we have t-shirts available if you're interested. They are sold at the link in the description down below. We hope you'll follow us into the Vortex. We'll see you next time.